Well, welcome back, everyone. This is Shirley, and this is Resolution in the Heart. This is a reading for the soul. So, last time we were reading the video cut off, and we're going to pick up from there. We are reading in the book of On the Way to Krishna, a small book, but always very good. Okay, so the last time we were talking about was a guy who wanted to know how sugar cane tastes, and he was going around tasting all kind of different bamboo rods, and it basically said that this man was foolish. So the foolish man began to chew in all kind of bamboo rod. How can he begin to experience the sweetness of sugarcane? Similar, we are trying to get happiness and pleasure, but we are trying for them by chewing on this material body. Therefore, there is no happiness and no pleasure. For the time being, there may be some little feeling of pleasure, but that is not actual pleasure, for it is temporary. It is like a show of lightning that we may see flashing in the sky, which may momentarily seem like lightning. But the real lightning is beyond that, because a person does not really know what happiness is. He deviates from real happiness. So this is where we pick up at. The process for establishing oneself in real happiness is the process of Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness, we can gradually develop our real intelligence and naturally enjoy relish spiritual happiness as we make spiritual progress. As we begin to relish spiritual happiness, we proportionately abandon material happiness. As we make progress in understanding the absolute truth, we naturally become detached from this false happiness. If somehow or other one is promoted to the stage of Krishna consciousness, what is the result? Upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken even in the midst of greatest difficulty. When one attains the stage, when one attains that stage, other achievements appear insignificant. In this material world, we are trying to achieve so many things: riches, women, fame, and beauty. If you hear a red noise, that's the heater. Knowledge, beauty, knowledge, etc. But as soon as we are situated in Krishna consciousness, we think, oh no, achievement is better than this. Krishna consciousness is so potent that a little taste can save one from the greatest danger. As one begins to relish the taste of Krishna consciousness, he begins to see other so called enjoyments and attainments as flat and tasteless. And if one is situated firmly in Krishna consciousness, the greatest danger cannot disturb him. There are so many dangers in life because the material world is a place of danger. We tend to close our eyes to this, and because we are foolish, we try to adjust to this danger. We may have many dangerous moments in our life, but if we are training ourselves in Krishna consciousness and preparing ourselves to go home back to Godhead, we will not care for them. Our attitude will then be danger come and go, so let them happen. It is very difficult to make this kind of adjustment as long as one is on the materialistic platform and is identifying with the gross body, which is composed of perishable elements. But the more one advances in Krishna consciousness, the more he becomes free from bodily destinations and this material entanglement. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the material world is compared to a great ocean. With this material universe, there are millions and billions of planets floating in space, and we can just imagine how many Atlantic and Pacific oceans are there. In fact, the whole material universe is likened to a great ocean of misery, an ocean of birth and death. In order to cross the great ocean of nescience, a strong boat is needed, and that strong boat is the lotus feet of Krishna. We should immediately get aboard that boat. We should not hesitate, thinking that Krishna's feet are very small. The whole universe is simply resting on his leg. For one who takes shelter of his feet, it's said that the material universe is no more significant than a puddle of water found in the impression of a calf's hoof print. There is certainly no difficulty in crossing over such a small puddle. Excuse me. This indeed is actually freedom from all misery arising from material contact. That's in the Gita 623. We are entangled in this material world due to uncontrolled senses. The yoga process is meant to control these senses. If somehow we can manage to control the senses, we can turn our face to actual spiritual happiness and make our lives successful. Yeah, isn't that what everybody's looking for? You want to be successful with your life? Yeah, I think so. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviated determination and faith. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of false ego and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in a trance by means of intelligence, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. The mind is always disturbed. It is going sometimes this way and sometimes that way. By yoga practice, we literally drag the mind to Krishna consciousness. The mind strays from Krishna consciousness to so many exterior objects because from the time immemorial, life after life, that has been our practice. Due to this, there may be great difficulty in the beginning when one tries to fix his mind in Krishna consciousness, but these difficulties can be overcome. It is because the mind is agitated and not fixed on Krishna that it goes from one thought to another. For instance, when we are engaged in work, memories of events that happened 10, 20, 30, or 40 years ago may suddenly come to our mind for no apparent reason. These thoughts come from our subconsciousness, and because they are always rising, the mind is always agitated. If we agitate a lake or a pond, all the mud from the bottom comes to the surface. Similar, when the mind is agitated, so many thoughts arise from the subconscious that have been stored there over the years. If we do not disturb a pond, the mud will settle to the bottom. This yoga process is the means to quiet the mind and allow all these thoughts to settle. For this reason, there are so many rules and regulations to follow in order to keep the mind from becoming agitated. If we follow the rules and regulations, gradually the mind will come under control. There are so many don'ts and so many do's, and if one is serious about training the mind, he has to follow them. If he acts whimsically, that, what is the possibility of the mind being controlled? When the mind is finally trained to the point where it will think of nothing but Krishna, it will attain peace and will become very tranquil. The yogis, the yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attain the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated. His mind is peaceful, his passions are quiet, and he is freed from sin. Gita 627. The mind is always concocting objects for happiness. I am always thinking, this will make me happy, or that will make me happy. Happiness is here, happiness is there. And this way the mind is taking us anywhere and everywhere. It is as though we are riding on a chariot behind an unbridled horse. We have no power over which we have no power where we are going, but can only sit in horror and watch helplessly. As soon as the mind is engaged in the Krishna conscious process, specifically by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then the wild horses of the mind will gradually come under our control. We must engage in Krishna service every moment of our lives in order to keep the restless and turbulent mind from dragging us from one object to another in vain, searching for happiness in the temporary material world. I think that's really good and so, so true because our mind just goes back and forth, depending on who you are and what you're focused on. But the mind is me, it looks like what it's saying is that the mind is trying to find happiness, but it's looking in the wrong place. Okay, so we get people, we are out of control. Let's go on. Steady in the self, being free from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. That's in Gita 628. Krishna serves as a patron for one who is devoted to him. When one is in difficulty, his patron saves him. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the real friend of every living entity, and we have to revive our friendship with him. The method of reviving the friendship is the process of Krishna consciousness. By practice of Krishna consciousness, mundane, passionate hankering will come to a stop. This passionate hankering, excuse me, this passionate hankering keep us divorced from Krishna. Krishna is within us and is waiting for us to turn to him. But we are too busy passionately eating the fruits of the tree of material desire. The passionate compulsion to enjoy these fruits must stop, and we must situate ourselves in our real identity as Brahman, pure spirit. So that is the end of that chapter, which I really do like. I'm trying to look at the time. That was 12 minutes. So what I did, all of it is good, but the one thing about how the mind is moving from one object to the next object is really good because that do happen to people, and it seems to be happening more often these days with people. And the other thing that I really do like is that when it tells you that Krishna conscious is a process, so it's not some emotional thing. It's not something that we can do on ourselves by ourselves to relieve all this stuff because we have all the doctors, all the psychiatrists, all the medication, but we still see that we have a lot of people that are their minds have been bothering them. You can see them on the street, you can see them everywhere. uh, you just all you do is open your eyes and you can see that it's the mind that's bothering them. So it's a process, and that's a good thing because it has a beginning, and it's going to lead to a positive end where, and this is me talking, where with other type of systems, far as like medication, psychiatry, I'm sure it do help some people, but you need to know that Krishna, there's a process, a step, you know, it's not just talking out all your feelings, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's also, you know, working with the Most High, who will work with you because you have brought yourself to Him. And then you can really get that mind to settle down. So I am going to stop here. We will start on chapter 2, which is the way of chanting and knowing Krishna. I hope you guys like that reading, and I will see you on the next reading next week. Take care until next time.